the founder and managing director of Energy Probe, as we know, Research Foundation. He's written many, many books, including The Conserver Solution, The Deniers, Energy Shock, Toronto Sprawls. He's written for the National Post. He's a columnist there and for the Globe and Mail. He's just been at the forefront of so much of our discussion about energy. His 1982 model for electricity reform was adopted in the UK in '89, leading to the demise of nuclear and coal power in the UK and its adoption of high-efficiency natural gas technologies. Lawrence is obviously someone that has really taken this issue very seriously for a long time, and someone who can drive us towards, again, finding out what's unique and how we can make a difference. So I welcome Lawrence Solomon.
Let me start by saying that there is no energy crisis. There are no energy shortages. We have energy coming out of our ears. We have more oil accessible to us today than we had 2 decades ago, and there's no end in sight. Most of the world remains unexplored for oil, not just in the outer continental shelf, but also in the interior of Africa, Asia, and South America. Not just oil is plentiful, natural gas is plentiful too. Thanks to new technologies that allow us to extract natural gas from shale, more natural gas is available to us now than, well, it's available in limitless quantities. And coal also is available as a practical matter, limitless quantities. We have hundreds of years of coal available to us. And apart from fossil fuels, there's limitless nuclear power available if cost is not an issue. And there's limitless wind and solar available. The technology is now here that will let us run our societies entirely on renewable forms of energy if we wish. There is no shortage of energy now, and there won't be in our lifetimes. The constraints come entirely in cost, environmental cost as well as economic cost. The question for our society is which energy options come in at the lowest economic and environmental cost. In answering this question, especially as to environmental cost, Canada is behind many other developed nations because we have not yet realized that man-made global warming represents no credible threat to society. And we have not realized that carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. There are many reasons to object to fossil fuels. It's full of many poisons. It's got NOx, and SOx, mercury. All those need to be constrained. But carbon, in contrast, is a component of fossil fuel that nourishes life. Carbon dioxide, until recently, was known as the gas of life. It's nature's fertilizer. It's a benefit to the biosphere. Now, you've all heard that there's a scientific consensus on climate change. Those of you who believe that have been misled. Tens of thousands of scientists dispute the views of the UN panel on climate change. The caliber of scientists who dispute the notion of man-made global warming may especially surprise you. They are, in effect, the who's who of science. They include, for example, Antonino Ziccici, the president of the World Federation of Scientists and the discoverer of nuclear antimatter. He's Italy's best-known scientist. They include Claude Allègre, France's best-known scientist. They include one of Germany's best-known scientists and the UK's and America's best-known scientist, Freeman Dyson, the physicist who invented the TRIGA, the inherently safe nuclear reactor that's used in hospitals and university labs around the world. What's the basis of the claim that we've heard over and over again in the press? that there's a consensus on climate change? If you trace it back, you'll find that the reporters who make that claim almost always rely on the number 2,500. That's the number of scientists said to endorse the conclusions of the UN panel on climate change. Well, is there a list of 2,500 endorsers of the UN panel? There is not, as anyone could discover by getting in touch with the Secretariat of the UN panel, as I did. The Secretariat will confirm that those 2,500 were not endorsers, but merely reviewers of the UN report. Those 2,500 had endorsed nothing. They had merely reviewed some small part of the UN's massive report, and often what they reviewed would have had nothing at all to do with man's role in climate change. And I know, because I know many of these reviewers, that they often disagreed vehemently with the sections that they reviewed.